They develop very bright, shiny colors to attract the female. They also dance for her. And
isn't it true for humans also?
yes, that is true for humans, especially when they change colors after the mating season is over.
Namaste and a very good morning. It is a bright sunny April morning at the National Academy of Customs, Indirect Taxes and Narcotics in Faridabad. Your host for today, Paritosh Vyas, welcomes you to the inaugural episode of The Speaking Order, where we bring to you the hidden talents and lesser known stories from the lives of the officer trainees of the Indian Revenue Service. Our guest for today is Anukriti Sharma, IRS. The reason we decided to call Anukriti for the inaugural episode is because she is the most energetic, enthusiastic and entertaining member of our batch. She has a wide range of talents which we shall discover through the course of the interaction. So Anukriti, welcome to our inaugural episode.
Thank you so much, Paritosh. Thank you for having me here.
So Anukriti, I have known you for quite some time now, but for the sake of our audience, give a little introduction. Talk them through the journey that you've had over the past few years of writing the civil services exam and getting into the IRS.
So my name is Anukriti Sharma. I belong to Jaipur, Rajasthan, and I've completed my school education from Jaipur itself. And then for my graduation, I went to Indian Institute of Science Education and Research, Kolkata. There I did an integrated BSMS course in Earth Sciences. After that, I went on to do PhD in Rice University, Houston, Texas. I was there for almost an year, but then due to certain reasons, I decided to withdraw from the program, and I came back to India and thought of appearing for civil service examination. Unfortunately, it took a little longer than what I had thought for qualifying the exam, but better late than never. And I qualified the exam and finally got into IRS Customs.
So Anukriti, you are a very social person, and over the past 3 months we've been in touch and have been participating in a lot of events on the campus. So I've observed that you are the kind of person who is always on the lookout for new things to happen around her. So how is the lockdown treating you? Because this is a challenging time for all of us where we are all supposed to remain indoors. So what are you discovering these days?
Yeah, lockdown is a very difficult period, especially for people like me who really love to talk to people and participate in activities all the time. Especially the first 14 days were really difficult when we returned from our custom attachment and we were confined to our rooms and we couldn't even come out. But we are, I think, the lucky few ones who don't have to take care about anything else, the food, etc. And we are staying in a lovely campus. So this was a time of self-exploration. I had left a lot of things during my school days, and due to civil services and graduation, I couldn't get a lot of time. So I've started painting.
Oh,
and we heard about Worli paintings and Madhubani paintings during our preparation. So I always wanted to try my hand at them. So I've started doing that. I do dancing for 1 to 2 hours daily and talk to a lot of people on videos.
That's such a wonderful way of spending your time. Anukriti, bird watching has been a hobby for you since a long time now. It's been how many years? 15?
No, not 15. I started that in 2009-10, almost 10 years.
Alright, so 10 years now. But not many of us understand what bird watching is. And some of those who do understand what bird watching is have a very different meaning of what it is. So tell us what bird watching as a hobby is to you. And I think you call it birding. So what is birding?
Yeah, I understand your concern that for a lot of boys, birding has a very different connotation altogether. And even in my college, guys used to ask me, why do you do birding? Don't you think that is our task? But to be serious, bird watching or birding is actually a recreational activity. Of observing the birds which are around us. It is very different from ornithology because in that you scientifically study the birds, their flight patterns or their body parts and such other things. But in birding, it's mostly about appreciating what is around you. You have to identify the birds, you look at their behavior, you study their calls, their food habits, etc., and then you can take it to any level you want. So it is more of a recreational activity.
Anukriti, how do you identify these birds? There must be a million species of birds. How do you pinpoint what bird it is? On what basis?
I think as we are sitting here, we can hear a lot of birds. There is this hoo sound coming from the background, and we heard a quail also. So let's move. I'll tell you how to identify the birds. So if you actually see there, we can hear two birds, right?
Yes.
So one, the black one which we are seeing is the male quail bird,
Uh-huh.
and rarely do we see the female quail bird, which is the spotted one.
Right.
It's a brown colored bird with a lot of white spots on it.
Okay, so there are two pairs here.
There are two pairs here, and there is an owl also here. I think they have an issue with the owl. That is why they were making so many calls. So the most important part of identifying any bird is its call. And there are many apps and websites. We'll discuss about it later on. So the moment you hear a call, you know which bird it is, because that is very specific to any bird. Now you have to pinpoint to that bird just to be sure. So there are many reference guidebooks, and that tells you about the plumage of the birds. The feather pattern of the bird changes from season to season. So you have a fair idea that this sound can belong to this bird, and then you go and look out for that bird with the help of binoculars, or if they are on the lower side, you can help see them with your eyes.
Every person, when he starts with a hobby, has to get a list of equipments which is required while you are pursuing a hobby. A dancer needs her gungru, a singer needs his musical instrument as an accompaniment. What does a birder need?
As we just saw right now, the most peculiar identifying feature of a bird is its calls. So the first thing a birder needs is good ears. And also because most of these birds are very shy, they remain high on the trees, they don't come out except these rock pigeons or the crows or menas, which are good adapted to the urban environment. So the rest of the birds stay atop. So you need to identify the calls, and you should have good ears and the eagerness to listen to them and the patience. So the first thing is that. Second is, since they remain high atop on the trees, so a good pair of binoculars would do. You don't have to go for very hi-fi ones. A decent 8 times or 10 times magnification, and that cost around 4,000 to 5,000 baht. So that is the second thing. Third is how to identify the birds. You need a reference guide. You might see something really new. So there is this famous book by Salim Ali, that is a standard guide. Besides that, there is also one Indian reference guide to birds of Indian subcontinent by Chris. So that is also a good book. So keep that. So we had this binoculars, good ears, then a reference guide, and the last thing is you need to have lots of water, because sometimes these birding trips can be really long and lengthy. So have water with you. That's it.
Anukriti, शुरुआत कैसे हुई? How did you develop an interest in this hobby? And has it been since childhood, or there were people who inspired you to take it up?
So I picked up this hobby during my graduation days in Kolkata. So initially, as I told in my introduction, I was brought up in Jaipur. It's not that Jaipur doesn't have a lot of birds, but it's a little dry place and you don't see a lot of them. While West Bengal, Kolkata in particular, they are very green places, and our campus was around 30 to 40 kilometers away from the city. And we had lots of oxbow lakes. There were a lot of lakes, a lot of fishes therein. So you see a lot of birds. So one day there is this very beautiful lake right beside our hostel there. So I used to go there for studying in the early hours of the day. I used to be there for 2 to 3 hours. And one day I heard a very melodious call. And when I looked up, there was this very beautiful bright yellow colored bird which I had never seen in my life. That's called oriole, and that sounded so beautiful. And then I also saw a lot of kingfishers. There are different varieties of kingfishers there. There was this white-throated kingfisher, the pied kingfisher, lots of pond herons. And then I forgot about my studying and I used to follow these birds all the time. And luckily, we had a very good nature club in our campus, which used to call experts from outside every fortnightly or something. So we used to go for nature walks. During that time, I came into contact with Arpita Datta. She is a professional birder, and she guided me. And I'm still in touch with her. She's my mentor and guide with respect to birding. And that is how I picked it up, and it has stayed with me till today.
You must have had a great variety of experiences while bird watching. But tell me about one memorable experience. It may be positive, it may be negative, but something which has left an impact on your mind.
Because of the busy schedule, I have not been on a lot of birding expeditions. Actually, if you say so, I have never been to a particular place just for birding, which usually birders do. But there is this one experience during college days only. One day Arpita Di called me and she said that, do you want to participate in bird race? And I didn't know what bird race is.
So what is a bird race?
So bird race is actually a race of counting the birds, identifying them and counting them. So a group of people is divided into different teams, and they are given a particular time slot, and they are left at a particular place, which is a hot spot for birds. And they have to whichever teams come with maximum number of birds wins the race. So we were around 5-6 teams, and all birding experience on one side, and that day lies on the other side, because first of all I became little quick in identifying the birds. Normally we just sit down quietly and wait for the birds to come. That day we were running after birds, and I learned a lot on that one single day. I learned 30 to 40 more species, and I even didn't know, because there were a lot of experts also, and I am an amateur birder, but then there were experienced birders also, so that was quite a learning experience.
When you go on a birding trip, you do make notes as well?
Yes. That is actually very important. Whenever you go for birding, you should have a small pocket diary kind of thing, because you might see a lot of things and their particular behavior also, and while after coming back you might forget them. So it's always advisable to have the reference guide and the notebook together and note down all your observations. Even if you don't get to see a bird, whatever you are hearing, whatever behavior you saw, it's always good to keep. And after coming back, you should have a good birding diary or notebook, so that you record and mention the date, the season, the kind of bird you saw, their feather pattern, the behavior, note them down. It's always very good to go scientifically while doing these things.
And when you are in a bird race, it must be so much fun to exchange notes. Once you gather at one place and everybody talks about their experience.
That is what I said, that all learning experience on one side, and that learning experience was special because I learned so many new things on that particular day. So yes, it was.
Anukriti, we now move to the second segment of our interaction, where the questions will get a little more personal. Instead of understanding what bird watching is, we would try to understand what impact it has had on your life. So you've been married to Vaibhav for quite some time now. To all the single boys out there, you have my sympathies. So, Anukriti, was Vaibhav already interested in bird watching, or did he develop the hobby while in your company?
Okay. So, when you are staying with a particular person, or especially if that is your boyfriend or spouse, you are forced to be interested in your partner's hobby. For example, Vaibhav listens to ghazals and he loves to sing. So, I'm actually forced to hear ghazals all the time in my house. So that is how I picked up interest in listening ghazals. So similarly, like jokes aside, Vaibhav is also had to accompany me on all the birding trips, and gradually he also developed the interest. He's naturally interested in nature, even the plants and birds. So
I think
yes,
he was interested more in you, and which led to his interest in bird watching.
Yeah, but he is not very explicit with all his emotions most of the time, so I don't know where the truth lies. But he seems to be interested in birding.
If you were to compare yourself to one bird, what would that bird be?
I think all of you think of me as a jungle babbler because I speak all the time, but I'm not Jungle
I
babblers.
think can we just end the interview there? This is the best shot of this interview.
No. I need to put my point here now. So I don't think I'm a jungle babbler because
No,
jungle.
you are.
No, listen. So the jungle babbler actually, though she speaks all the time, but they speak in a group of 7 birds. You call them Saat Bhaiya in Hindi, right? And they speak in equal tone, in equal volumes. That's not the case with me. I think I'll identify myself to a barbet.
A barbet?
Yeah, because a barbet, first of all, she loves eating fruits, and I love fruits too. And second is, she speaks alone all the time.
Okay.
And we are forced to hear. You people don't listen to me. I think I'm more close to barbet.
Alright.
Yeah.
And both these birds are native to India?
Yes, you have a lot of barbet varieties. I think there are 8 to 10 species of barbets in India.
Okay.
And Indian subcontinent. So you have coppersmith barbet, blue-throated barbet, brown-headed barbet, and all sorts of them. So and they are quite shy birds. They always remain high on trees. You really need, but they speak all the time. So you can hear them call. Especially this is the mating season. So yes, they are all over the place.
While we were discussing your hobby a few days back while preparing for this interview, you told me that a bird watcher's job does not end on a bird watching trip, but there is a lot more that you study after the trip is over, particularly the ecological behavior of a bird. Tell me more about it.
So birds have different kind of behaviors, like humans have. The first is they change the color of their feathers from season to season. Especially in the mating season, they develop very bright, shiny colors to attract the female. They also dance for her. And
Isn't it true for humans also?
yes, that is true for humans, especially when they change colors after the mating season is over.
I think I'll have to give a call to Vaibhav after this interview is over.
Sure. So yeah, so that is one. Second is if you look at the beaks of the birds, they are different from birds to birds, right? For example, the parrot has quite broad beak. So that is especially used for cracking the nuts or eating hard things. If you look at pigeons and all, their beak is specially adapted to eating worms and grains. If you look at the herons, they have an elongated beak to eat the fishes, catch and eat the fish.
The sunbird.
The sunbird has a hooked beak so that it can suck out the nectar from the flowers easily. And the amazing thing is that they sometimes might not have a place to perch, so they hover like a helicopter while sucking. So their flight patterns are very special.
And they are beautiful tiny birds.
Yes. And besides that, if you look at the predator birds who have to cut down the flesh, they have a very sharp nook in their beak. So just by looking at the birds, you can say what kind of eating behavior they have, right? So these are different things. And one is quail. I think the behavior of quail is well known to. That's a famous story that the female quail doesn't build a nest for herself. She doesn't fulfill the basic responsibility of motherhood. She just goes into a crow's nest and drop the eggs and lays down her own eggs. So, and you might feel that they are all devoid of feelings, but that is how nature works. So there are lots of amazing behaviors like mimicking, taking out different sounds, or even mimicking the predator birds so that you can drive away the males. There are all sorts of things, so interesting things. So you can follow them up.
Their physical features, their beaks, their plumage, their parenting behavior, everything is
Everything,
studied.
even the kind of nest they build. Some of them, I forgot its name. That's a bird found in edible nest swiftlet. The swiftlet, it's called. We have read that in our critical endangered species also.
Right.
Now that is called an edible nest because it makes the nest out of its own saliva, and that I think some find nutritious also, so they have it. So that is also, the baya makes a very beautiful nest. So the kind of nest they make, the material they use, the way they raise their children, that is all very interesting field to explore.
This leads me to our next question. How can parents initiate their children into a hobby like bird watching? And what impact will it have on their psychological and emotional development and on the personality in general?
I think parents in general need to teach their children to be appreciative of what is around. it shouldn't be the case that you move along the road and you don't observe anything. Whether it's true for plants, it's true for birds, it's true for wildlife, even birds. With respect to bird watching, I think all of us miss a very beautiful aspect of nature when we don't look at birds. We hear them all the time, each one of us, but rarely do we look up and see, who is making the call. And they are so beautiful, they are colorful, they have so many ecological behaviors which are astonishing in some ways. So I think, and this is a very stress-free exercise. See, waking up early in the morning and going besides the lake and listening the birds itself sounds very, soothing and calmful. So this is a very good hobby. And India is very rich in biodiversity. You will never be done with the whole country in your lifetime. Believe me, the Himalayas has different bird diversity, northeastern areas, even deserts like Great Indian Bustard, and also you can spend your whole life, Salim Ali did, and still he could cover a fraction of it. So this is an excellent hobby, and it will make you keen observer. It will help you appreciate nature. It will make you a good student also, because later on you can develop it scientifically, note down things, and help in the scientific knowledge which we have in this country.
So we are fortunate to be in such a lush campus as Nasin, which is a rarity for Faridabad,
Yes.
where we have a wide variety of trees. So what are the birds that you have observed in this campus in the duration of the 3 months that you have been here, particularly since the past 20 days since the lockdown was announced?
Yeah, surprisingly, we have quite a lot of birds here, and even some of the rare birds. Like if we have the common birds, we have Maina here, Bulbul here. There are two types of Bulbul here. One is the common red vented. You call it red vented because it has red color bumps. So that can be easily spotted when it's on the tree. So we have red vented bulbul. The other is red whiskered bulbul.
Okay.
That is a rare one. It has a red colored patch besides its eye. We have koel here, lots of them. We have two kind of barbets. There might be others, but I haven't been able to see them. You hear them all the time. I was very surprised to see yellow-footed green pigeons in our campus. They are not very common. A green pigeon, yeah. Some people say that, it's a cross between a pigeon and a parrot because of the very beautiful colors it have.
So a pigeon and a parrot got naughty, and a
yeah.
yellow-footed green pigeon was born.
No, that's joke. It's just a joke. But yes, they are beautiful, and they eat the berries on the tree. And we have grey herons here. Grey herons, not the grey herons, the grey hornbill.
Grey and
Hornbill.
Okay, hornbills in northern India.
Yeah, the hornbills are very common in Indian subcontinent. You have the Malabar hornbill in the Western Ghats. In the larger part, we have the grey hornbill, and that is very sleek. That is quite a large bird with a peculiar beak. I was very happy to see them in our campus. The other is the magpie robin that sings very beautifully. I also saw a kingfisher in our swimming pool. Yeah, so the swimming pool was empty. I don't know, maybe it remembers there used to be water here. So yes, we have quite a lot of bird diversity
Any
here.
birds of prey?
Yeah, I have seen shrikes and eagles in our campus, and we have a foreign visitor in our campus these days. These are rosy starlings.
Alright.
These are migratory birds, and you see huge flocks of them all over the trees these
These
days.
are the ones that have taken over the trees near our hostels.
Yes.
Okay.
So we have quite a lot of them in our campus.
This brings us to the end of our interaction on bird watching with Anukriti Sharma. Anukriti, thank you for being with us. I've not had so much fun since the lockdown was announced.
Same here.
And I would just like to extend this a little by asking you a few riddles.
Okay.
Don't take it seriously. These are for fun.
Okay.
But do think of innovative answers to these questions. So the first question is, which is the bird which can lift the heaviest load?
Do I have to think in a PJ style for this?
Absolutely.
That's a very difficult one. I'm not good at them. Yeah, normally the large size birds, the eagles, lift very heavy loads. No idea.
A crane can lift the heaviest
Oh my
load.
god. Now I can see quarantine has had a good effect on you.
Absolutely, I don't disagree.
Okay, next.
The second question: if there is one bird which has the capacity to write, what would that bird be?
Right. The parrots are good learners. They read the tarot cards and all these things.
It's not a parrot. It's not a parrot.
No, yeah, no idea.
Socho, Anukriti, come up with an answer. After having cleared the civil services exam, this is the least I can expect of you.
Being good at PJs. No, yeah, I give up.
It's a penguin.
Oh God.
Penguin.
I could have never thought. Yes.
And the last question:
Okay.
why does a flamingo always stand on one foot, on one leg?
Maybe it tries to show off its balance or something.
अरे नहीं, तुम सोचो. If it takes the other leg off, गिर जाएगा ना बेचारा.
अरे वो गिरेगा नहीं, वो पक्षी है.
उड़
जाएगा.
Now you are in the groove. So, Anukriti, thank you so much for sparing your precious time.
Thank you, Paritosh, for having me here. It's after a long time I'm talking so much about birds, due to civil service preparation. I was completely out of touch. I started that recently after coming into the campus, and it felt so good to, just blabber about the little things I know. So thank you so much.
Any message for our viewers, because summers are approaching and we are in a very difficult time, at least till the 3rd of May and for the next few months to continue. So what is the message you have for our viewers?
The message is, with respect to birds, you should have a bowl of water for them outside, because really they don't have good sources of water, especially in urban areas. So that is first. And second is, please, this is a difficult period for all of us. We haven't seen such situation. This is unprecedented times. So try to explore yourself, develop some good hobbies. This is the best time to learn. Take it in a positive way. Keep a safe distance from different people and stay safe. That is all I had to say.
Thank you to all our viewers for listening to our banter for a good half hour. In our next episode, we bring to you a conversation with Jai Shah IRS on lessons in administration from Indian mythology. Till then, stay safe, stay indoors, take very good care of yourselves. Goodbye, Jai Hind.